continuation of the hybrid World War III that's been raised. Hello, this is Benjamin Fulford speaking on April 29th, 2022. This week I'd like to take a quick look at the worldwide situation because what we're seeing, of course, is the continuation of the hybrid World War III that's been raging for quite some time now and has intensified in the past month or so. The big story continues to be the Ukraine, of course, but since that's been covered heavily elsewhere, I'm just going to point out information I think I only have or is not out there widely, and that is that the fuss being made over the people hiding at the steel plant in Mariupol, and pardon me if I pronounce that wrong, is very, very crucial. This is not about 2,000 Ukrainian soldiers. They couldn't care less about them. They're disposable as far as the elite are concerned. Apparently, though, there are 300 senior NATO officers there, according to some sources. And that includes my own CIA sources. Now, that's embarrassing because that's an open admission that this is a war by NATO and not by the Ukraine. But I'm also hearing that the real reason why they sent the head of the UN, no less, as well as the Red Cross, to try to negotiate the release of these people, is that they have a adrenochrome harvesting factory there. In other words, the entire world would be shown undeniable proof that the Western elites torture children in order to harvest an enhanced form of adrenaline from their blood known as adrenochrome. Now, there are also reports that the reason for the fuss is because there's a biological weapons factory there, but that cow has already left the barn. You know what I mean? They already have that proof, and they've sent it to the governments of the world. So they wouldn't be making such a fuss over just a bioweapons plant. So whatever it is, if that comes out, that's going to be a very devastating blow for the remaining Khazarian mafia governments in the West. And that's coming soon. Russia has made it clear that at a certain point they're going to use thermobaric bombs that'll suck the oxygen out of the entire area and basically suffocate those people and freeze the evidence in place. But it's a huge underground facility. It was originally built by the Soviet Union so that they could continue steel manufacturing in the event of a World War III by having everything underground. So it's a huge underground complex. And it's being used for nefarious purposes. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on very much. Now, let's look at the rest of the world a bit. In Pakistan, the U.S. cabal coup d'etat there is not going very well. That country is in a very unstable situation. Apparently, the lawsuits are going against the new prime minister for accepting bribes. So that country could be headed towards civil war or a military coup against the government installed by the, bribery from the, drug dealing division of the Khazarian mafia. What's happened in Pakistan is twofold. One, it's to suck up to India by, beheading their enemy, and then the other is to preserve their huge heroin business there, which is, if you just multiply it by the street price of $30 a gram, that's like at least a $270 billion business. So that's what they're fighting about there, and that's not going very well. And they need that drug money because in Latin America, the Latin American drug lords have broken with the Khazarian mafia in the U.S. They're no longer laundering their money through their banks. And this is part of the reason why the Biden regime is in great danger. Now, what's happening is the drug lords are taking their dollars, their money from the drug business, and they're using it to buy silver and commodities. And they've detached themselves. So that's huge because, the CIA, or at least the Nazi part of the CIA, was known as the Cocaine Importing Agency. So that's gonna hit the U.S. deep state big time. So that's another thing I'm keeping an eye on. Now we'll go back to the election in France, where we saw a very blatant electoral theft there. That's out there. Everybody knows. It was even on the TV screens showing the entire French people that the election was stolen. But British intelligence tell me that whoever they've got there is not the original Emmanuel Macron. And I've noticed that they are cutting off internet cables all over France. That means that the significant part of the French military realizes they're fighting an artificial intelligence, and they need to cut off the internet in order to liberate the French people. So that's another thing I'm keeping an eye on. But, the regime in France will fall when other things happen elsewhere. I also got impatient last week. I went to visit some prominent right-wingers saying, why don't we overthrow the puppet government of Fumio Kishida? And when I was at the meeting, the U.S. military actually sent helicopters to buzz the area. But the answer I got was, Japan cannot act alone. This has got to be done worldwide. So we're talking about something that's happening across the world. And so Japan is going along with the overthrow, but, they don't want to jump ahead of themselves. The real battle is still the United States. And I'll get back to that in a minute, but I want to touch on Justin Castro in Canada. He's being heckled wherever he is. There is evidence now out there that he stole the election, so he's illegally in power. And we have a new character out there. Alexander Soros is starting to come out as the new face, the new public face for the Rothschilds. So he's their top agent now in public. He was there congratulating the fake Macron election, and he's out there, congratulating the fake Trudeau. And so this is where, if you can grab a hold of him and bring him in for questioning, that will unveil a lot of the hidden players. But the other thing that's happening, of course, is that the entire Chabad cult, and these people are not Jews, okay, because they want to kill 90% of humanity, and that's totally against the golden rule. That means they're not Jews. And their hierarchy is being rounded up. So that's going to be big. And I noticed that the Israeli Mossad site Debka has been down for a month now, or almost a month. That's interesting. But I know that Israel has broken with the Khazarian mafia. The Jewish people are in the process of liberating themselves. So that's a huge development that's not being reported because it's freaking out the Khazarian people in the United States. And again, these people worship Satan. They're not Jews. They pretend to be, but they're not. This needs to be put out there, because the people who are fighting to liberate humanity, many of them are Jews, and they hate what these people stand for. They're ancient enemies. We've been fighting them for literally thousands of years. So don't mix the two. They're not the same. But that's the other thing that's going on. And finally, I took a note of Elon Musk buying Twitter. And I did a little research into Elon Musk, and according to Japanese intelligence, and this is something that I confirmed with my sources in the U.S. Space Force, is that Elon Musk is actually the son of Werner von Braun, the Nazi rocket scientist. So that's why they smuggled him, give him a new identity via South Africa and stuff. But it's a good thing in that the rocket, UFO, high-tech people, not the genocidal part of the Nazis, but the high-tech part of the Nazis are on board. And that's a big thing. That's why, if they take over Twitter and they allow large parts of the still sleeping sheeple the truth, that's going to be huge. So there's a big battle going on there, but that's a good sign. That the military establishment, the people behind DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, all those guys are on board with the project for planetary liberation. Now, the other thing we're noticing is some kind of financial Black Swan event is coming. They've put fences all around the Federal Reserve Board building in Washington, D.C. Now, I've also noticed the Japanese yen has plunged. A dollar used to buy like 108 yen for, forever. Now it's suddenly over 130. That's because the Japanese slave government is basically, using all its money to support the people behind the fake Biden regime. But they don't have the money. Japan alone cannot print the Biden people out of bankruptcy. It's not happening. That's why the yen is plunging. So that's not going to work. And I also noticed an actual honest opinion poll. I'll write about it in my report and coming out Monday. But an actual honest opinion poll that was conducted scientifically shows that support for Biden is only at 2.4%. Okay, when you have that little support, you're doomed. It's just a matter of time. So I know things seem dark, but the fact is their vaccine agenda is blowing up in their faces. The statistics are showing that the vaccines are causing a lot of damage. And I actually have personal knowledge of this. One of the publishers who publishes my books in Japanese got, his wife browbeat him into getting a vaccine, and now he's sick. The father of my manager, he also got a vaccine, and now he's in the hospital with heart problems. So the fact that they were not able to kill all the people who got vaccines, which was their intention, but they made enough of them sick to make everyone else angry and awake. So all those blind sheeple who went in and got vaccinated, they're realizing now that they were intentionally poisoned, and that's not going to go down lightly. I know that special forces will be hunting down Justin Castro. They will be hunting down and bringing to justice the people behind Macron and Biden. It's happening. You see that with Kamala Harris coming down with COVID and isolating. You see that with all these politicians coming down with COVID and isolating. It's a war, folks, but we are winning, and the evidence all around the world is that things are going very well. There's going to be a big fight in China, too, because the Khazarian mafia is going all out to try to suck up to China, saying, we're going to give you the world, we're going to give you everything, just please work with us. And so there's a battle going on over China, but the Chinese people are aware that the Khazarian mafia are dangerous. They'll tell you what you want to hear, and then they'll stab you in the back the first chance they get. So they're not going to be fooled. And I do know that a basic agreement to reunify Taiwan with China peacefully has been reached. There's not going to be war there. There's just some cleaning up to do with the Korean Peninsula and Japan, but that will happen. Basically, the U.S. military white hats need to reach a final agreement with the Asian secret societies in Russia, and that's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. But first, the cleanup in the West has to continue. And when you see the removal of people like Castro and Biden from public office, when they stop putting these fake Fauci videos out, then you'll know it's really over. I don't want to give a timeline because, it's a war and they're going to do something else for sure. They've been trying to start a starvation crisis. That's not going very well for them. They've been blowing up food plants. They've been spreading swine flu. They've been trying all sorts of things, but it's not going to work, okay? There's not going to be a mass starvation event like they wish. So that's not going to work. So who knows what else they're going to do. But definitely keep your eye on the sky for the fake UFO stuff, because that's definitely going to become more and more mainstream. And I expect the battle to continue now over the summer, and there should be huge events in the fall. But there's the next month, too, there's going to be a lot happening. So let's see what happened with the fencing of the Federal Reserve Board. Let's see what happens with the entire fake financial system, if they pull the plug now or not. But, overall, my assessment is things are going well, but the battle is far from over. So just do what you can personally. Everybody's watching this. We're all in this. The fight is to liberate humanity and put an end to this ancient satanic curse on our planet. Okay, Thank you very much for listening. That's what I have to say for myself today. Now I'd like to answer questions.
Ivan, we have our first question today. If everything is going so well and you have regular updates from the good guys in MI6, why are they allowing mobile vac centers to be set up again? Old people seem to be flocking to them. The entire elderly community will be dead at this rate, which I'm sure is what the globalist wants, as they're expensive to upkeep. It's criminal as the rest of what is going on. What are your thoughts on this?
It is a war, and their control over the medical establishment. You see, doctors in Western medicine have to follow orders or they lose their license and their ability to make a living. They're also being given huge bribes. So it is still ongoing, and the control over the pharmaceutical industry is one of their strongest cards. So we do need to request, and I'm doing so now, that British Special Forces go after the executives of the big pharmaceutical companies, all who are and put an end to this. Now, I personally went to a vaccine center at my local train station in Japan, and I said to them, carrying out medical procedures based on lies is a war crime under the Nuremberg laws. I'm going to come back tomorrow with a camera and I'm going to film you. And you know what? They shut down the center overnight. So I recommend that people, aware citizens in the UK and elsewhere, go to the vaccine centers with their cameras and say the same thing, that carrying out medical procedures based on lies is a war crime under the Nuremberg war laws, and you're a war criminal and you're going to face the death penalty. Just record them on camera, do that, and that should be enough. But it is disturbing that they're still able to do this, and that shows the war is not over. But nonetheless, I do know that at the highest levels of the military and the intelligence agencies, the white hats are winning. So let's, don't give up, but fight. Do what you can personally. Don't just wait for someone else to do it for you. Okay, next question.
I read where the mass media has been ordered to begin 10 days of disclosure containing real news happenings, or they would lose their broadcasting licenses. Is there any truth to this? And how can the White House be closed down for so long and the general public does not notice? The media does report as though that they are at the White House. What is the deal with such an unusual happening?
Well, clearly, it's the control of 90% of English language media, and by that I mean textbook companies, radio stations, television stations, now these internet corporations. It's all controlled by 6 conglomerates. They've been trying to centralize control of information, and this shows their success, that they can create a fake White House just by using TV screens. And as for disclosure, you are seeing stuff in the media. It is happening. You're seeing stuff about pedophiles being arrested in the Pentagon, other things. And when the Russians said that the NATO people were planning some kind of false flag chemical attack, some of the corporate media actually reported that. But let's see, believe it when you see it. But the fact that CNN is being shut down, or they couldn't do their streaming service because nobody believes them, all this is a good sign. But again, I'd like to see military police send into the Voice of America propaganda building in New York, into the headquarters of these corporations, and force them to tell the truth. I think the move by Musk on Twitter is a big step in that direction. I like what he's saying about truth, even truth that's critical of him. I hope he lives by his word. But let's wait and see. But, in the meantime, you can tell that the National Security Agency is helping us because they're allowing people like me to talk to people like you over the internet. They could cut that off anytime, and they don't. So there's a huge alternative free information network out there, and it's waking up a critical mass of people, especially people who still have their own brains and think for themselves. And these are the people who are going to make the difference. But let's wait and see. For 10 days of disclosure, I'll believe it when I see it. But there is partial disclosure already for sure. Okay, next question.
Can you give an update on China? What is the progress of removing bad actors in the CCP?
There's been some kind of information embargo on China. Okay, my usual sources aren't answering me, so it's a sign that there's some kind of big internal battle going on there, and they just don't want anything to leak out. But I know that the most powerful groups in China, this includes a secret society with 55 million members, are against the masks and the vaccines. So let's see what happens. But there's some kind of internal struggle going on there, and they have a big Congress in November, and so it's going to be a battle between now and November. Let's see what happens then. But I'll keep trying to get more information. But right now, I don't have anything original to offer that's not already out there, except that there is a battle going on. Okay, next question.
I know you've touched on Elon Musk briefly today already, but do you believe his intentions are pure, and would you consider him a white hat in all of this?
Well, my own sources say he's been like sitting on the fence for a long time, and that recently he's decided to throw in with the white hats. I think his actions will show which side he's on, but as I mentioned earlier, apparently he is the son of Werner von Braun, and if we can get all these super military brains on board, that's a good thing. I sure hope he is, but the overall assessment until now has been he's been a gray hat. He's been like wavering, but now apparently he's gone full in with the white hats. Let's hope that's true, because he's a very powerful person, and he represents a very powerful faction of the military. Okay, next question.
We have our last question for today. Ben, I am tired of hearing that so and so has been taken out, and then they appear again and again. For example, George Soros, the Queen, Justin Castro, Hillary Pelosi, Putin, Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates, and so on. How can you explain these people coming back?
They've been doing this for a long time. I admit they've done that. They've managed to damage my credibility with this over the years. Like, I'll never forget. They did it to Christopher Story, right? Christopher Story, he put out a big report saying that Henry Kissinger had been arrested, and then as soon as the report came out, Henry Kissinger appeared at a huge meeting with thousands of witnesses. And they tried the same thing with me. They say, oh, so and so is dead, and then he appears. Okay, but what I do know is that a lot of them really have been killed and arrested. And what happens is they then, there's a pause of a couple of weeks, so they don't appear in public, and then they come up with a plausible-looking body double and computer graphics, and they keep the show going. So I've been told that we're on Nancy Pelosi number 6. The current Hillary Clinton is 20 centimeters shorter than the previous one. And now we have Kamala Harris vanishing, and let's see if she reappears with a slightly different face or not. But clearly, as long as, and the same with Dr. Fauci, right? I've been told he was executed at Guantanamo Bay, and then there he's appearing on their screen. So I think the key is to take over control of the corporate media networks so they cannot continue to pretend as if these people are still around by either using actors or computer graphics. I've been told repeatedly that they use clones, but I just haven't seen the evidence. Because if they were clones, they would be identical, and you can always tell the differences. The ears are different. There's a slight difference between the distance between the eyes and the forehead, the mouth and the chin, things that you can't alter with plastic surgery. So, and Joe Biden, for sure, they've got actors. I've heard of 3 different actors playing his part. And now we've got this actor pretending to be President Trump. Okay, that man you're seeing on your TV screens is an actor by the name of Masok. I wonder if he's related to the Baron Masok, whose name is the origin of the word masochism. But anyway, the fact that we have some Trump appearing on TV promoting vaccines tells you that he is now controlled opposition, or at least the one you're seeing in public. I hear stories about the real Trump in Mount Cheyenne fighting to liberate. I hope that's true. Certainly, Trump as a symbol is still very powerful. But, basically, what I'm trying to say is that even if we do get these individuals, and I know for a fact that we got rid of George Soros. Okay, I got that from Dick Cheney. And but they kept trying to pretend he was alive. Let me get back into the story about George Soros a bit. I was told he was killed, right? And then I tried to follow up on this, and I looked, and his children announced that they were dividing their inheritance 5 ways. So you don't inherit something usually unless somebody dies. Okay, that was a public announcement by the Soros family. Then, after the children announced they were dividing his fortune, suddenly he supposedly appears at Davos. But all the stories came from San Francisco. And as I've repeatedly said, I'm not an expert in geography, but I'm pretty sure San Francisco is not in Switzerland, So they put out a computer graphic, George Soros. They put it all over the TV sets. And everyone saw they pen an article supposedly written by him and put it in their media. But he hasn't appeared in public. So finally now it looks like they gave up on George Soros, and now they're using his son Alexander Soros. But this is one of their tricks. They tell people someone's dead, or we do kill them, and then they just pretend that they're not dead and put a fake up. So, until we get to the puppet masters behind the scenes, people like David Rockefeller Jr., the French branch of the Rothschilds, all these people, until we get to them, they're going to keep putting these fake people on their screens, like the fake Macron we have now. So we really do need to get to the men behind the curtains, and that's what we're doing. But yeah, it is frustrating to be told that Bill Gates is dead and then find him appearing in public, So we have to be careful. But a lot of them really have been removed and replaced with actors. That's a fact. All right, thanks for listening in today, and I hope to talk to you next week.